going on, guys? Welcome back to United View. Hope everyone is doing very well, having a good Friday. We're back with another press conference reaction, and if I look a bit glum in the face, if it looks a bit gloom and doom, that is because a massive injury blow has been revealed for Manchester United over this lunchtime, pertaining not only for tomorrow with the arrival of Fulham to Old Trafford for the game 3 o'clock kickoff in the Premier League, but for the next 2 to 3 weeks, because that is Rasmus HOJLUND has suffered a muscle injury and will be out of action, or is expected to be out of action for the next 2 to 3 weeks, despite being in fantastic form, obviously scoring 7 goals, 6 games, being the youngest player ever in the Premier League to score in 6 consecutive Premier League games. He will miss tomorrow's game at Old Trafford, and not only will he be a doubt for next week's FA Cup tie against Nottingham Forest, but also it would appear he's going to be a massive doubt also for the Manchester derby next weekend as well. So there's so much to get into. Plus we've got a plethora of quotes from Erik ten Hag talking to the assembled media at Carrington, particularly when it comes to Sir Jim Ratcliffe. And really for the first time, I think we've seen Erik ten Hag come out and say that he's got the backing of Jim Ratcliffe. He's got the backing of Ineos. They believe he's the right guy to take Manchester United into the future. He's the right guy to deliver Champions League football, Premier League titles, Champions League trophies. He says they're totally aligned in their vision and their targets, and he's already had plenty of conversations with Jim Ratcliffe, with Sir Dave Brailsford as well. So there's so much to get into. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe bottom right hand corner. Let's see what the chat is already saying. I can see you guys filing in quickly, getting your thoughts in, getting your reactions in, because I'm sure your reaction was exactly like mine, where once the news came through about Rasmus HOJLUND, which we'll get into in just a second, the reaction was, oh my God, this is terrible news. Once again, this season is cursed and stricken with injury, and just it was always at the wrong time. And as we've said so many times, haven't we, that it's not just about getting players back, it's about keeping them fit. It's not about getting them back to fitness. It's also keeping them fit so they can play large parts of the season. Thankfully, it's not a long injury, but it's an injury nevertheless, just at a time that Manchester United were starting to hit some kind of form, undefeated in 2024, and the guy who's really hit form, red hot, one of the most informed players in the Premier League right now. Rasmus HOJLUND out of action for 2 to 3 weeks. It's absolutely a devastating blow. Maybe not so much for tomorrow and maybe midweek for the FA Cup game, but really for that Manchester derby next weekend. And here's hoping it's just that's a very worst case scenario prognosis, and he might be back actually by next weekend. We'll have to wait and see, but let's see what you guys are saying in the chat immediately. Click the like button, be sure to subscribe. Super chat straight off the bat from Danny DeFito. Hopefully he's not too defeated. Says, I can't help but feel this is all KG's fault. Well, whenever KG leaves the country, this is true. Bad things happen. I mean, I've tried to, shackle him to something over here in the UK, and this is what happens when he leaves the country, which is, let's blame KG, I agree. But let's see what people in the chat are saying. Rowena says, we're screwed, bye top 4. MA says, title race is over now for FC. I don't think we were ever in one, to be honest. Simon says, fitness department needs to change as soon as possible. Austin says, next man up, we go again. We got this, guys. Keep pushing forward as well. Josh Media, Graphics Guru, Visual Ninja is with the eyeballs in the chat. Go away, Josh. What else are people saying here? Prod by Palmeiras says, means Anthony will have to play. Adrian says, HOJLUND, no. Starlord says, big up, everyone. Big up to you, Starlord. OG member as well. We've got, what else have we got here? Joe Carr says, what's wrong with our fitness coaches? George says, I believe we've had 15 different players injured now. The medical department needs serious looking at as well. Nessie says, if Ahmad doesn't get game time tomorrow, he never will. Rahad says, we're so screwed. Could have got top 4 too. Well, let's maybe not be totally defeated straight away. Punjabi Red Devil, the super chat, appreciate the contribution, says, Owen, who do you think will be our second striker for next season? Tony is the one we should go for. We need to release a fitness trainer right now. Well, we spoke about this morning, didn't we? About the big summer overhaul, the big transfer spend in the summer. I think wherever Ivan Toney goes, I think he won't be going as a backup striker. I don't think he's going to be going to Manchester United. I think he's probably going to be going to Arsenal, possibly Chelsea as well. But if you are just getting in, yes, the breaking news is that Rasmus HOJLUND is out of action with injury. Let's go to the report that came out from Manchester United about sort of 10-15 minutes before Erik ten Hag's press conference. It was quite a short statement by Manchester United. You can see it right there on the screen. It said, Rasmus Højlund will miss Manchester United's Premier League game against Fulham on Saturday due to a muscle injury. It is expected to keep him out for 2 to 3 weeks. Now, once again, it's going to be really interesting to see, I think, what the reports are surrounding this injury. We don't know exactly what muscle it is, where it is. Now, Erik ten Hag has said in the press conference it's a small injury, and maybe it could just be a thing of he's going to be out of action for Fulham. He's going to miss the FA Cup game midweek, but he will be back for the Manchester derby. We're also in the territory where we don't want to rush him back, but this is the risk you run when you've got one striker, one available striker. And this is the problem with, we mentioned it with Anthony Martial, didn't we? That, we are an injury away from being screwed because we don't have a recognised striker available now. The chances are Marcus Rashford will play up front tomorrow against Fulham. That's really the only option we've got, to be honest with you. That means Rashford's going to be up front. Would probably mean Garnacho moves out to the left-hand side, and then you get into the conversation of who does Erik ten Hag pick? Does he pick Ahmad for the right-hand side, or does he pick Anthony for the right-hand side? What does he do? That's going to be the interesting thing. I think he'll probably pick Anthony. I would like him to pick Ahmad in this situation, because this is what I've been saying when it comes to Ahmad and all this kind of stuff, that the front three's been working recently, so why would you change that? Now, when this opportunity has arisen, now would be the time to put Ahmad in and give him a go. I think most likely he will go with Anthony. We know he will go with Anthony. Let's put a poll in the chat, actually. We'll say, because let's face it, the chances are it's going to be Anthony or Ahmad. Is there any other option? Does he keep Rashford out on the left, and does he put Garnacho on the right and put McTominay up front? I don't think he would probably do that. We'll put a poll in the chat. Who does Ten Hag pick tomorrow at right wing? Is it Anthony or is it Ahmad? Poll there is in the chat, so you can get your votes in, get your thoughts in, get your likes in as well. Let me see, I'm caught up with the super chats here. Yankman United says, so what will the front three look like in the FA Cup and the derby? That's the interesting one. I think when it comes to the FA Cup, I think it will look very similar to whatever lineup he goes with tomorrow. As far as the Manchester derby, I'm curious about that too, because part of me does hope maybe that Højlund will be back. I think that might be a hope from Manchester United, maybe, given what Ten Hag has said, and we'll get to his quotes in just a second. But it's going to be a very touch and go, certainly, isn't it? Big up to Steffi Jenks as well. Been a member for 17 months and just, I guess, really echoing how many people feel at the moment. We're seeing the Rasmus Højlund injury, and that is a lot of crying face emojis, certainly. But the poll is in the chat. Who does Ten Hag pick tomorrow at right wing? It's not who would you want to be picked. I think that's the important thing. We're predicting what Erik ten Hag is going to pick. Is it going to be Anthony? Is it going to be Ahmad? Let me know your thoughts about that. So let's get into the press conference. Let's get into what Erik ten Hag said and what he responded to when it came to the questions at the press. So the first one came from Simon Stone and was about this injury for Rasmus Højlund, was about this problem. And he was asked if he could explain what happened, let him know what happened as well. So he asked how long it was going to be out of action for. And he said the following, you can see it right there, saying it's a small injury, 2 or 3 weeks. It's the risk playing high intensity. It's not a big injury, but he has to wait for 2 or 3 weeks. Now, what is quite interesting, and maybe what that quote doesn't say right there, is that it says that he had to wait, he said, for 1, 2, 3 weeks. And maybe I'm clutching, and you can shoot me down here and say, Owen, you're clutching, you're reaching, but he did say 1, 2, 3 weeks. So I don't know if I'd rule him out of the Manchester derby, because the statement didn't rule him out of the Manchester derby. We'll wait to see if they do that. I think, obviously, definitely, he's not going to play tomorrow. They've said he's not going to play tomorrow. I don't think they'd risk him for the FA Cup in the week as well. No disrespect to that competition. But I think they might have just a smidge of an eye looking towards the Manchester derby and saying, well, if it's small, let's see what we can do, perhaps. It might be something like that, or it could be, no, he's just going to be completely out of action. But I do think it's significant that they didn't say he was going to be out for the Manchester derby as well. So we shall see when it comes to that. But that is the news when it comes to Rasmus HOJLUND. He's out for tomorrow, a muscular injury, out of action. They're saying for 2 to 3 weeks. We shall see indeed how long it actually plays out as well. What else are people saying in the chat here at the moment? Gian says, Anthony is Ten Hag's failed project. He's trying so hard to prove himself right. He will pick Anthony. What else are people saying here? Bandil says, Owen, it's over. It's over. This is one thing I would say, though, when it comes to this HOJLUND thing. I don't think we should overreact. I don't think it's a case of our top 4 hopes are over. It's a massive injury blow. He's been in red-hot form. But just because we've lost Rasmus HOJLUND, that doesn't give us an excuse to lose against Fulham. If we lose tomorrow at Fulham, I understand we've got injury problems. I understand that, again, we don't have a recognised striker and we don't have a left-back. But then you also look at Fulham's record. We went over this in the preview. Fulham have won 1 away game this season in the Premier League. That was their first game of the season. So they're terrible away from home. They beat, there's some weird stat about they beat Arsenal at home this season, but they've not beat 2 sides that finished in the top 4 consecutively the season prior since something like 2009. So travelling, they're poor. They're missing players tomorrow. They're missing Paulinho as well. So I don't think it's a case of, we're not going to win tomorrow now. With the players we have, we should beat Fulham at home. Hot take, I know, but we should still beat Fulham at home. FA Cup in the week, going away to Nottingham Forest, that's going to be challenging. We didn't do well. where we lost against Forest in the league, so that's going to be challenging. Hopefully, like I mentioned, he might be back when it comes to the Manchester derby. Maybe it's a bit longer, but there still is games to go. There are still plenty of games to go between now and the end of the season. And the suggestion is it's a small injury. The season is not over. It's not the sky is falling. It's a massive blow, obviously. Massive blow. But it doesn't mean, that's it, we're losing tomorrow. That's it, we're definitely not getting top 4 now. That's it, we're screwed. It's not going to happen. We should still win tomorrow. Absolutely, we should still win. And it definitely doesn't give the players an excuse not to win. We're still in good form. And as we will talk about as we go through the press conference, it's an opportunity for players to step up, I think. So, absolutely massive blow. But we should still win tomorrow, regardless. Now, it's the bigger blow for me for the Manchester derby if he misses out, because you want someone in red-hot form. You want someone that's playing well and scoring goals to be on the end of what is going to be a counter-attacking performance away from home. And if HOJLUND's not available, that's incredibly disappointing for me. But we shall see if he is available. Bandil says, who will score now, Owen? Please, tell me. Well, when it comes to Rasmus HOJLUND, in the other games that we've been playing recently, it's not just been Rasmus HOJLUND scoring as well. It must be stressed too. Rashford has been scoring goals. Garnacho has been scoring goals. You'd be looking for your captain to step up and score goals. Scott McTominay has been scoring goals as well. So once again, despite his really good form recently, I think it's not a case of he's been scoring all of our goals. So it's not an excuse to lose tomorrow. Absolutely. And Bruno Fernandes absolutely has to step up tomorrow. Those attacking players have to step up tomorrow. No doubt about it. Now, next question was about Sir Jim Ratcliffe, which prior to the HOJLUND injury, I expected this press conference to be largely dominated about Sir Jim Ratcliffe and if he was aligned with Erik ten Hag and if he'd spoken to Ten Hag about Ten Hag's future and strategy and goals going forward as well. So the first question was that it was the first time that Erik ten Hag has spoken to the media since the ownership of the club was confirmed. And the question was put to Ten Hag, what have you gathered from him about this season, about the targets and aims for this season? This is what Ten Hag said. He said, we speak a lot. There are many conversations with him, with Dave Brailsford, about this club, about this team, about the structures. We are very aligned. It totally fits with ambitions I have, ambitions I had when I came in. I'm 19 months in, and I see we are going in the right direction. He then said, we have had setbacks in the second season, but you see the team coming, the squad developing, work hard on the training pitch, work hard during games. It's important to have players fit, but also to construct the squad. We will be strong and we will be even stronger when we add to this squad even more qualities. Now, I should probably, to be honest, go straight on to the next question because this kind of encompasses all of this. And this, to me, I mean, prior to the news about Rasmus Højlund would have been the biggest takeaway from this press conference is it's really the first time Ten Hag's spoken about his future under Ineos and spoken about if Ineos believe in him and think he's the right guy for Manchester United moving forward. So the question was put to Ten Hag, which was, do you get the feeling that he's confident in you to deliver the targets that he has spoken quite extensively about this week? And he said the following. He said, absolutely. We are very aligned. We have the same ambition. We belong there, Champions League. We believe we have to prove it. So Erik ten Hag was saying that they're totally aligned, and he absolutely thinks that he has the belief of Jim Ratcliffe and the backing of Sir Jim Ratcliffe and Ineos that he's the right guy. So, look, and obviously it's one of those situations where he's not going to come out and go, I don't know. I haven't spoken to me about that, and they don't think I'm the right guy. I don't think he's the right guy. But it's really the first time that I can recall, that kind of question being asked. Like even previously, I don't even know if it's been brought up in press conferences actually, with when they come in, do you worry about your job? Do you worry about your future? Do you think you're the right guy to deliver all this kind of stuff in the eyes of Ineos? But he's suggesting that he's had conversations. He's saying that I've had plenty of talks with Jim Ratcliffe, Sir Dave Brailsford, about the club, the team, the structure, the plans for the future, and we're very aligned. We're very aligned with the ambition. We're very aligned with the targets, and we're very aligned in this process. And he certainly sees himself as the right guy, the guy to deliver those targets for Manchester United moving forward as well. And he gets the feeling that they're very confident in him as well. Now, I suppose the other way to look at it is that he was asked, what was it, last week, about whether or not he had any input on sporting hires above him, sporting directors, chief executives, head of recruitment, head of performance, whatever you want to call them. And he said that he hadn't had those conversations, or he wasn't aware of any changes. So I suppose it's a case of, where do you think Erik ten Hag is telling the truth, and where do you think he's not telling the truth? Do you think he's constantly being honest with the media? Do you think he's constantly lying, or is it somewhere in between? Because when he said last week, I don't know anything about the changes. I haven't heard anything about the changes. I just keep working in the current structure that I've got, no problem. I sort of speculated and thought at the time, there's no way he doesn't know about those changes. I suppose maybe because technically he can't talk about it at that point because things weren't totally confirmed, maybe, that he sort of had to play coy, go, I don't know anything about it. I just keep carry on doing what I'm doing. Not a problem. And maybe now he can actually speak a bit more openly on it. I don't know. But certainly he feels he has the backing of Ineos. He feels that they're totally aligned on their vision. And I still stick to kind of my belief, to be honest with you, which is the rest of the season will dictate as to what happens with Erik ten Hag, to be honest with you. And this was something that was kind of asked a bit later on. If results dip and if momentum drops, then he'll be in a bit of trouble. If we qualify for the Champions League, if we win football matches, then Erik ten Hag will get another year and will get an opportunity to work under the new structure at Manchester United. And I do think that Ineos, in an ideal world, they wouldn't have to change the coach. They would have a coach that they're totally aligned with. They would have a coach that they see as doing good things, winning games at United, and just think that if we can improve the structure around him, we'll get the best out of him and we'll get the best out of the team. Obviously, as I mentioned, if results do take a nosedive and we don't qualify for the Champions League, then they're already making changes. So I think they'll then have that discussion of, could we do better? Is there someone else better that's available? Should we go in a different direction? So I still think the future is yet to be written when it pertains to Erik ten Hag, to be honest with you. So that's him talking about the club and talking about the new minority owner of Manchester United, that is Sir Jim Ratcliffe. We've got over 500 people watching. I know there's not much to like when it comes to Rasmus Højlund and the injury and him not being available for tomorrow, but if you could like it for the channel, be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe as well, bottom right hand corner. A reminder, the Trinity podcast is coming up later on today, 6 p.m. Also, a reminder / disclaimer, and you'll see this when it drops later on. It was filmed on Wednesday. because KG, that comedian, is not in the country. He's stateside, and we had to record it before he left. So that was recorded Wednesday. So it was recorded prior to the events of today regarding Rasmus HOJLUND. But what it is really good for is that it's a perfect time capsule, a perfect look at legitimately KG reacting in real time to the quotes from Sir Jim Ratcliffe when they came out on Wednesday. It's well worth a watch. So that's going to be coming out 6 p.m. on today. In addition to that, tomorrow, just a bit of a heads up, Road Trip is going to be up very, very early tomorrow morning. Flex is going to be on his way to Old Trafford and also talking about this Rasmus HOJLUND injury. And a reminder, because you guys have really been enjoying the sort of new look, revamped Match View live experience, tomorrow, as you can see right there, we'll be live 1 p.m., 2 hours before kickoff. We'll be guiding you through the pre-match. We'll be guiding you through the team news. We'll be guiding you through the statistics and what's expected to happen that day. We'll be guiding you through the match as it's happening live. And then, of course, we'll be guiding you through the post-match too, providing post-match analysis. There'll be the full-time view, fan views, player ratings. You know what to do. So you're locked in tomorrow, your full match day experience as well. Where will we at in terms of the press conference too? So this was a really good question, actually. And it was asked to Erik ten Hag, now that Jim Ratcliffe is confirmed, now that everyone's in place and now that they have control of football operations, is there now more pressure to succeed? Now that Jim Ratcliffe has spoken on the record about what he expects of Manchester United, is there more pressure on Erik ten Hag and Manchester United this season? And here's what he had to say, Erik ten Hag, about that. He said, nothing, no more pressure because we have the same ambition. We have the same targets. Now, this is an interesting response here because I was thinking about this when he was talking. Is there more pressure on Erik ten Hag now that Ineos are confirmed, ratified through the door, and they have control over football operations? Let me know what you think in the live chat about that one. Because I was looking at it, yes and no. I understand what he's saying, where he's sort of suggesting, well, our ambition's always been the same, so there's no more extra pressure in the sense of we're always going to be, this season, we always try to finish as high as possible. We always try and win every game. We're always trying to finish in the top 4, so there's no extra pressure. But naturally there has to be more pressure on him because what Erik ten Hag has benefited from this season is he has had somewhat of a safety blanket, I think. Sirens in the chat. He has had a safety blanket, which is when things were really bad, everyone, and I think everyone said it in the chat, also on shows like this, Full View, whatever, that he almost couldn't get sacked because there was no one there to make that decision. There was no one there to make that call. The Glazers weren't going to make that call because they're in the process of selling a stake of the club to someone, so they're not going to do that. We didn't even have a full-time CEO. We've got an interim CEO, so does he even have the power to do that? With John Murtough, it's not really his call. On top of that, he hired Erik ten Hag, and on top of that too, is John Murtough even going to be in a position soon to do that, right? With whoever's coming in as the sporting director. So he did have the safety blanket of there's nothing that anyone could do if they wanted to make that call. And I don't think they wanted to make that call anyway. But if really push came to shove, they couldn't. There was no one there to do that. So I think there is more pressure now because the expectation is there. The pressure is there. The ambiguity above him about the strategic review of alternatives and what's going on. Are Ineos coming in? Is Sheikh Jassim buying the club? And who's going to be the owner? Who am I reporting into? All that kind of stuff. That's now gone. I mean, the future is being quite explicitly laid out for him. And the expectations always are high at Manchester United. The expectations always to win and always to win the majority of football matches and be high up the league as you possibly can. But naturally, there has to be more pressure now. Absolutely, there has to be more pressure on him. So I do think that there is more pressure on him. And yes, the targets are the same for this season. And the target, I think, was, going into the season, we thought we might be maybe taking an extra step, challenging for a title. That seems laughable at this point, isn't it? But I think that the the targets have really remained the same throughout the season, to be honest with you. Andre says, why are you guys only talking about Ten Hag sacking? It's so boring. Andre maybe missed, the first... How long have we been live here? We've been live 25 minutes, maybe the first 15 when we were talking about Rasmus HOJLUND. And this is what's funny as well. When you go through the press conference, you can... I have this a lot, actually, on my wrestling channel. This is absolutely true. Whatever's in the headline, whatever in the news, you have to talk about. You don't make the headlines or anything like that. So you just talk about literally the question that's being asked. If someone says, is there more pressure on you? You go, don't talk about it. Put your fingers in your ears, guys. Don't talk about it. Don't say anything. Not at all. You can't talk about it. Don't talk about it, Ten Hag. You're only talking about that. Naturally, whenever someone buys or spends over £1 billion buying into the club and they have the ultimate say about whether the manager's going to be there, you have to talk about that, particularly when it's asked in the press conference as well, Andre. So, I apologise for that. Maybe you can skip ahead, or maybe you can skip back and just keep repeating the start over and over again. Maybe that's what you got to do. And he's going to really hate the next question because the next question was, is there going to be more pressure if you don't finish in the Champions League places at the end of the season as well? And Erik ten Hag said, look away, Andre. He said, that will always be the case, more pressure. But I see this process and I see this team developing. It's progressing. I see we now have also the right age across the squad. We can make that even stronger and they will grow and we will do everything in our power. There is a strong competition and there are reasons behind. We still have to catch up in the moment where every game is a final for us because we have to be in the Champions League. The players want this. The team want this. But we have to believe. So he's saying that naturally there will be pressure if United don't qualify for the Champions League at the end of the season as well. But I think, again, this is where I kind of push back on that, is that if the takeover stuff was still ongoing to the end of the season, and could you imagine that went on for like 18 months or what? That would be awful. But there are consequences now. And maybe that's the best way to put it, is there are now consequences where maybe there weren't consequences previously. There are expectations, once again, where maybe there weren't previously. Because Man United has been frozen for the best part of a year. Man United has just been sort of chugging along with no idea what the future looks like. How can you set targets for the future when you have no idea what that future actually contains, what the targets even are for the future? You don't know. Now we do know. Once again, there are consequences in place. But as he says, for any Man United manager, you don't qualify for the Champions League, pressure is absolutely going to be on. No doubt about it. But there is still plenty of time to go. And I still think that, as I mentioned, regardless of the Rasmus HOJLUND injury, hopefully he'll be back in a couple of weeks' time. As was kind of pointed out later on in the press conference, the games we've got coming up are largely favourable games, to be honest with you. Apart from Manchester City, something like 6 out of the next 7 games are in the bottom half of the table. So, yes, injuries are going to hurt that in terms of you want to have the best team available, but we should be winning those games. Absolutely still should be winning those games, no doubt about it. How many likes have we currently got at the moment? We're still under 200 likes. Let's see if we can get up to 200. We're about, 63 likes away. So if you haven't already, click the like button. Be sure to subscribe as well, bottom right hand corner. I'll close this poll. It's been up for 20 minutes. And the question was, who does Ten Hag pick tomorrow at right wing? And 50-50 with Anthony and Ahmad, suggesting that I think Anthony shades it. Well, according to this graph thing in front of me, suggesting that whilst it is 50-50, Anthony does shade it. I think he probably picks... I would like to see him pick Ahmad, but I would be more surprised if he does pick him. Now, I think most people would probably think he's going to pick Anthony, to be honest with you. If he picks Ahmad, then I think to be honest, it's the perfect game. Fulham at home, as I mentioned, they've been rubbish on the road, and it's the perfect time. It's not as if it's an away game, difficult game, or anything like that. Pick him and give him a go. When it comes to Anthony, though, he might look at it the other way, going, exactly, it's the perfect time to pick Anthony and give him a go. But I think he probably picks Anthony, to be honest with you. So yes. What else are people saying here in the chat at the moment as well? Steffi Jenks says, I hope he isn't coming back fresh into a derby regarding Rasmus HOJLUND. Well, I think if he's ready, that's the key thing. If he's ready, then you go with it, of course. But I suppose we did say that about Luke Shaw, didn't we? At Luton, we said if he's ready, play him. Now Luke Shaw's out for the rest of the season, so certainly we don't want to do that either. So we shall see. As Neil says there, Ahmad will play in the FA Cup midweek. That will be quite interesting, won't it? About maybe they both get a chance. Maybe they both get an opportunity where one plays in the Cup, one plays in the Premier League. And if HOJLUND isn't back by that point, then it's like, right, we'll weigh up both of the performances and see who deserves to start against Manchester City. I would probably think that at the Etihad in particular, he would probably, if he had to, he would probably pick Anthony. More so because he trusts him more. And that's what it is. It's trust, isn't it? He trusts him more and he thinks he's going to be more disciplined to do his defensive job. That's what he will do. But I would hope, is that maybe HOJLUND is back by that point. But we'll have to wait and see. Now, the next question was about the injuries, suggesting, talking about that ambition, about wanting to qualify for the top four and wanting to win things. Do the injuries wreck that ambition? Erik ten Hag said the following. He said, quote, of course that is an issue, but other clubs have this and we have to deal with this. I feel we can deal with it better, but it's an issue when the depth of the squad. Now, he's then asked about Sir Jim Ratcliffe's comments about Manchester United haven't won a league and managers haven't been successful as well due to structure. And he was asked if anything had been missing regarding that structure. And Ten Hag said, I don't go into that discussion now. What we look forward to is the future. And what I discussed previously, you always have to improve. You always have to do better. Bad structures can help for the future because the competitors never sleep. They always improve. As you see last season, third in the league, we have 2 finals. The way is not too far. You see in the last games what this team is capable of, and the potential of this team is very good. So he's saying that obviously the injuries are an issue and we can deal with it better. I would respond to that by saying, no shit, Eric. Of course we can deal with it better. Other clubs have had to deal with it. We're not alone in that regard, because it's a weird one, the injuries, isn't it? The injuries is a weird one because clearly, as he points out, there's more we can be doing. We can be handling that better. We can be doing that better. You look at, for instance, how, let's say, the Luke Shaw situation was handled. You know, he came off against Villa. It was a doubt. We got him in for the Luton game. Now he's out for the rest of the season. That was badly handled. Now, people put the blame on Erik ten Hag for that. And ultimately, I suppose he picks the team. But largely with that, and particularly when you watch these like documentaries, these sort of all or nothing documentaries with Spurs and Arsenal and City and whoever's done them in the past, they're largely dictated to by the medical department. The medical department, the club doctor or whoever, the head of sports science, will go to the manager and say, he's ready to play in conjunction with the player. I'm ready to play. I feel like I can do it. I think I'm good to go. And the manager goes, well, okay, fine. We'll take a risk. I mean, I don't think it's very often the manager goes against, the medical staff's orders when it comes to playing a player or picking a player or anything like that. So I think less of the blame is on Ten Hag about that, more the medical department, which we know at the moment is being massively overhauled. There's being a huge audit of that medical department. We know that audit's being led by the former Arsenal doctor that recently came into United, and it needs to be scrapped because, I mean, look at what's happened with us this season. We have been absolutely decimated by injuries. Now, it's not just a Man United thing. It is prevalent across the entire Premier League and it's prevalent across football. And the amount of games that clubs and players have had to play over the last few years is clearly catching up to so many players across the Premier League. I mean, football's almost never been as intense on the pitch, but on top of that as well, the load on the players, the amount of games that have been played over the last few years is just way too much. That's why you've got people like Raphael Varane speaking out and saying it's just getting ridiculous with Nations League games and World Cups in the middle of the year and expanding competitions, having more games in the Champions League next season and having expanding the Club World Cup and having more games there as well. It's just too much, and it's starting to catch up of players too. So I think it's a variety of different points to look at. One is the medical department absolutely needs to do better, has to do better, but I think also it's a wider football conversation as well, isn't it? It's a wider football conversation in the sense of these players just across football are picking up injuries because they're playing so many games. And I get it. You know, these are multimillionaires. Whenever you bring this up, people go, cry me a river. If I got paid that amount, I wouldn't care. But, you know, money doesn't make you happy in that sense. It's particularly if you can't do what you love to do because you're constantly hurt and your body's constantly breaking down. And you know that the powers that be in football that are meant to be there to try and look after you, care for you, have player welfare, they just couldn't give two shits about you because it's all about revenue. It's all about how many games can we put on TV? How many sponsors can we sell? How many ad breaks can we get into this? How many more games can we get into this competition? How can we expand it to all of these different international markets? That's what it's all about. And the byproduct of that is having all of these players constantly get hurt. Like, the irony is that all of these, you know, bigwigs want these big, huge, reputable players to play in all of these games, and they can't because they're constantly injured. But it doesn't matter because they get a game on the pitch somehow, some way. So that absolutely needs to be addressed in football. And I don't know honestly how it does get addressed, because unless literally the players just have a bit of a mutiny, I'm not sure how it stops, because it's just these organizations, these companies, these executives, they'll always want more. They'll always want more. There's always, look, as a consumer of the product, as someone that's watching football matches all the time, you're never going to say no to more football matches. Some are more exciting than others, obviously, but you always want to watch football matches. You always want them to be on, but it's the concern is about the player as well, isn't it? So I think it's a couple of things, as I mentioned. I think United have to fix it and sort it out, but also I do think it's a wider football issue too, and we're still feeling the effects, I think, of that Winter World Cup as well. So, and then also, as I mentioned, he spoke about that structure surrounding him, give a bit of a wish-washy answer about that, but I think it's safe to say, isn't it, if United have a better structure, then the manager's going to succeed as well. Now, this was an interesting question about these injuries, and the question was that now that you've got these injuries, are you going to see other players get more opportunities? Is it an opportunity to give these fringe players a chance, or is it a massive setback having these people out? Erik ten Hag said both, basically saying, of course it's a setback, but it is an opportunity to give players a chance. He said all the players will get the opportunity to show their qualities. Of course, we are very curious, and we have the confidence they can, because that's why we constructed the squad. When we went into the January window, we saw players who didn't have the chance in the first half of the season, or they were injured. Now they will get opportunities, and now it's about them to be confident. So Erik ten Hag says players will get a chance, players will get an opportunity. Which players they will be, I mean, you have seen the last couple of weeks. I mean, every time the starting 11's kind of named, to be honest, you look towards that bench and go, not really a ton of options on it. It's McTominay comes on. I mean, Eriksen's been on the bench in recent weeks. He doesn't always come on. Ahmad's been named on the bench most weeks. Whether or not he starts tomorrow, like I said, I would still be surprised. I would hope that he would get a go tomorrow, because I think that's the right game for him to get a go, and it's the right time because there's an injury. But I think he'd probably go with Anthony, to be honest with you. I wouldn't be shocked with that. So when you do look at the other people getting an opportunity, I mean, who would they be? Some people are saying Amari FORSON. I don't know, look, he did come on against Wolves, I suppose, but it's one thing being brought on in a game, isn't it? It's another thing starting. Starting Old Trafford in the Premier League, that's another step entirely, isn't it? So, yeah, well, I mean, I think if I was to predict, because I know it's quite funny now, because if you look at the preview that Flex and myself did on Thursday, it's already massively out of date, because it's like, oh, there's no stopping HOJLUND. There absolutely was stopping HOJLUND. He stopped himself. He got injured. So now that team that I would predict for tomorrow would be Onana in goal, Dalot at right back, centre backs. I still think we could see tomorrow maybe Varane and Evans, maybe, or it might be Maguire and Evans. I think Johnny Evans starts tomorrow because you've got to think about the game midweek. Left back most likely would be Victor Lindelof. Your then midfield looks to probably be Kobbie Mainoo, Casemiro, Bruno Fernandes. And then your front three most likely now would be Rashford up front. On the left, it would be Alejandro Garnacho, and I expect it probably to be Antony on the right, to be honest with you. But there are some key positions now missing, absolutely. So I mean, some people were saying get Amrabat back at left back again. No, thank you. No, not a chance. After what we saw earlier on this season, guy couldn't really run, to be honest with you. So that was the question about the more opportunities. And finally, the last question was about, I mentioned the games coming up, which of course Fulham is included in this, is that actually 6 out of the 7 are in the lower half of the league. The only one that isn't, of course, is the Manchester Derby next weekend. So is this the perfect time for Manchester United to really continue this run, despite the injuries? And Erik ten Hag said, we have to go from game to game. Every game is a final. You will see closer by the end, and points will be more expensive, and everyone is fighting to get their position in the league table. We are used to it. Not only from January are we playing a final, but we also have an experience of many players who can deal with pressure situations, so we look forward to it. So, like I kind of said earlier on, obviously the injuries that we've sustained recently, particularly obviously the fullback one, because we need people back. I mean, Terrell Malacia, our hopes for a left back are pinned on someone that hasn't played all season. A bit of an update actually on that when it comes to Terrell Malacia. It was reported by Stephen Ralston from the Manchester Evening News that it's been suggested that Terrell Malacia will return to training on the grass next week, which implies that he's still a few weeks away from being available for Manchester United. But, I mean, even when he comes back, the kind of pressure on a guy that's not played all season to be then playing nearly every game between now and the end of the season, going to be difficult. Very, very, very difficult. So we're kind of screwed when it comes to that. I did see something today about the possibility of United trying to recall Brandon Williams from Ipswich, but it would require special dispensation from the Football League, which would be unlikely to be granted, but it might be something that United look into, which, given the current circumstances, I don't think it would be the end of the world. Here's something, though. We do have some breaking news, guys, coming in the last couple of minutes. This is indeed what happens whilst you're live. Indeed, we have some breaking news.
Breaking news.
Now, the breaking news is, and this comes from Academy Scoop online, who cover and provide analysis of youth football across the world with a specialisation in Manchester United's academy. They've been the first to break a lot of news regarding academy players starting. Camboila, they were first to break that. Kobbie Mainoo, they were first to break that when it came to him starting, and they usually do it pretty early. They are reporting that Erik ten Hag is set to hand Amari FORSON his first Premier League start for Manchester United tomorrow. The manager rates FORSON very highly, and the preference for him to start over Ahmad is based on skill set and potential, and not training performance or effort related. So once again, that is the breaking news right now, is that Erik ten Hag is set to hand Amari FORSON his first Premier League start for Manchester United tomorrow. He rates him highly, and his decision to start him over Ahmad is based on skill set and potential, not training performance or effort related. And I think that last line is to maybe avoid another Jadon Sancho situation, suggesting that it's not because Ahmad isn't training well, it's not because Ahmad's not putting the effort in. He sees it as an opportunity to start a young player that he rates very highly. Now, there's so many different ways you can look at that. I'm really surprised by that, because like I said earlier on, throughout the entirety of this video, I genuinely thought that he would start Antony tomorrow. I didn't expect him to start Ahmad. I thought he's going to start Antony. If this is accurate, that's a massive story. Massive, 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 massive story. First Premier League start at Old Trafford. On top of that, he's not going with his guy. He's going against his guy. He's saying, Antony, I paid all this money for you, £85 million, and I'm going with an academy player over you because I like his skill set and his potential. That is a big move by Erik ten Hag, and certainly that's a shift of what we've seen in recent weeks by him saying, I'm giving these youngsters a chance. I will give them a go. Amari FORSON, and again, I tend to believe that that account. They've been absolutely spot on when it comes to academy players starting Premier League games for Manchester United, and I think it says a lot about Anthony's future. I mean, Anthony's gone in the summer with that kind of news that Amari FORSON is set to start. Ahmad, wow, that's why Ahmad, if he's not going to start tomorrow, then I don't think he's going to be starting hardly any games this season as well. So that is the news, that Amari FORSON reportedly set to start for Man United tomorrow, his first Premier League start. So that would then suggest that we're going to have a front three of Marcus Rashford up front. We're going to have Alejandro Garnacho probably on the left, and then Amari FORSON on the right. So a big call by Erik ten Hag. But look, let's face it. Amari FORSON, when he did come on, and I'm surprised, as I said earlier on, it's one thing to come on in a game in the Premier League, it's another to start. But when he came on against Wolves at Molineux, he was involved in that goal for Kobbie Mainoo in the last minute, and maybe Ten Hag views it, if I can get this player going, this could be like a new signing for us this season as well. So that is big news if indeed that is accurate. Amari FORSON set for his first Premier League start at Old Trafford against Fulham tomorrow. I mean, what do you guys think of that? Let me know your thoughts, your reaction to that in the comment section below. Coach is saying FORSON at 9, Owen. FORSON replaced HOJLUND at 9 at Wolves. So they're suggesting that maybe he's going to start up front. If so, that's going to be interesting too. So maybe he's going to be starting through the middle, possibly. I know that on tour he played, I think on tour he played on the right as well. But we'll see. We'll see where he'll play tomorrow. Like you said, he has come on against Wolves at the 9. And that itself is very curious, isn't it? Because that means he wants to keep that balance of having Rashford on the left and Garnacho on the right. So very, very curious, that one. Watch this space when it comes to Amari FORSON. So, yeah, very, very interesting stuff. Fascinating stuff with that. Yeah, we shall see. I mean, where do you let me know in the chat where you think FORSON, if FORSON starts, where does he play? Do you think he plays through the middle, or do you think he plays right wing? Because like we said, we have seen him come on through the middle, but we've also seen him play on the right in tour, I think, as well. So that's going to be quite interesting. So Keep says, FORSON came on in the 9 against Wolves, made the run off the ball to create space for Mainoo for the goal. Sciliano says, this news has made me strangely hopeful as well. Nessie says he thinks he'll play at the 9 tomorrow. Relentless Red said FORSON will be left wing, Garnacho will be right wing, and Marcus Rashford through the forward as well. Austin says FORSON false 9. He also plays as a central attacking midfielder. Tabarez says FORSON through the middle without a doubt. Otherwise, he would have played Anthony. So lots of people saying maybe he plays through the middle. We shall see. But there you go, guys. That's a big bit of developing news there. We've still got over 600 people watching. We don't even have 200 likes. So if you haven't already, click the like button as well. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. Am I caught up when it comes to super chats? Oh, Yank Man United. I missed this one. Apologies. Says, Anthony with a classic cut inside and winner tomorrow. Well, maybe not. Doesn't look like he's going to be starting with that new bit of news there regarding Amari FORSON. So watch this space, certainly. Absolutely. We've got over 200 likes. We can still go higher. So yes, click that like button as well. A reminder, what's on tap for the remainder of the day. 6 p.m, the Trinity podcast. Flex, KG and myself talking about Jim Ratcliffe, his comments. And you'll see KG's real-time reaction to all of the stuff that happened Wednesday regarding Sir Jim Ratcliffe. Tomorrow, a reminder, Road Trip will be up very early with Flex talking about, obviously, the Rasmus HOJLUND stuff, maybe this bit of news regarding Amari FORSON, and also we'll be previewing the game at Old Trafford tomorrow. And we'll be live tomorrow, 1 p.m, ahead of the 3 o'clock kickoff at Old Trafford. It's Manchester United versus Fulham. We'll be giving you the pre-match, during match or mid-match and post-match as well, plus the full-time view, plus fan views, plus player ratings. You won't have to go anywhere tomorrow. So there you go. Anyway, guys, have a great Friday, and I'll speak to you again very soon. I'm out of here. Peace.